Hi, welcome to another edition of Camosun Today. My name is Kirsti Robinson, and I'll be your host for the next half hour. This week, Camosun Today is going to have a look at 5 students from the Visual Arts program and their work. You'll be seeing pottery in the making, some drawing, some painting, a form of sculpture that's quite different than what you might expect. But first, we're going to have a look at one of the courses the second-year students are very busy with now, and that's animation. Lisa Woods is going to talk to me about what she's been doing in that area. Hi, Lisa.
Hi.
Are you all set to show the whole world your newly acquired animation skills?
Yes.
All right, that's great. You've been pretty busy getting ready for all your assignments. You have, what, 5 assignments?
Quite busy with all 5 assignments. Actually, the 5 assignments are, they're sort of like one big assignment for the whole semester's work is based on this one sort of theme or story that we're doing animation on, but we treat it 5 different ways.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah. So you'll have sort of the same characters throughout all?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. So you don't do you have to do as many drawings that way?
You don't necessarily have to have the same character. You just have to have a certain sense of continuity through it all. Like, it all sort of has to tie in with each scene. You can't have 5 different stories.
How many drawings would you have to do just for the line?
Okay.
The line.
Well, for the line drawings, and if you wanted 10 seconds of line, you'd probably need, generally speaking, it's 24 drawings a second. Now,
so 24 times 10, that's 240 drawings?
That's right.
Okay, Lisa, I'd like to know, and I'm sure everybody else would like to know too, about the origins of this little pinwheel character you have here. He's in all your cartoons.
Yeah.
Or should I say she?
Well, actually, it's not a he or a she, it's an it.
Oh, okay.
And its name is Pinny Moo.
Pinny Moo?
Yeah, it's my pride and joy, actually. It was originally a telephone doodle. The third component of our 5 components is the cell. And by cell, I mean this is what we call a cell. And our character is drawn on every sheet of this clear acetate. And this is the kind of technique that's used in Walt Disney productions.
Okay.
If you'll notice, if you watch Bambi or whatever, there's always hand-painted, nice, really intricate trees painted in the background, and really nice and soft. And you get these little characters that run through and do stuff, and they're only drawn on these sheets.
Okay.
This is the backdrop I'm using.
Okay.
So I tape that down, and I animate it one at a time, one picture at a time. I can make him travel all over here with very simple drawings. So what I've done is I've made the actual drawings less complex and made the background more complex.
All right.
So you can choose which direction to go. I quite like the cell. Any aspect of animation has an incredibly wide range of room for creativity. I mean, it's all creativity. You're giving life to something. You're giving life to a drawing. And it's just that feeling that you get when you see a drawing actually move.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you could be doing drawings all your life, right? But seeing them move is something entirely different.
Did you ever have to do those, I don't know what they call them, you know, but when we were little kids, you used to have that little book, and
the flip book.
Through them all? Did you have to do that as a sort of an
I've never done a flip. I never took art before.
No kidding?
No, I never took art in high school. I did in elementary school. But
you must be naturally talented.
Oh, well, I don't know.
I thought you were drawing all that. Listen, Lisa, why don't we go over to the other little table there, and you can show me the last 2.
All right.
There's backlighting and cutouts.
Yeah,
right?
Cutouts and backlighting. Cutouts first, then backlighting.
Okay, we'll have a look at that. All right. Okay, Lisa, is this the 4th assignment then that you had to do for the animation?
This is component 4. This is the cutout part.
Okay, Lisa, just in real general terms, how does the machine operate? I mean, it looks just like a normal VCR.
This Christi, is a monster machine. It looks very scary, but it's actually, I don't know, it's pretty easy to operate. I don't know everything about this machine, but I know how to get this stuff on tape, which is all you need to know.
That's all you really need to know.
Yeah. So I put it on record play, obviously, and it holds it still. And I operate each frame or each number of pictures per second by a foot pedal underneath. And you can tell every time I press the pedal, you can hear this go beep, beep, click. What I'm trying to accomplish here is subtle movements of little pieces Like I've got one leg here and one arm.
Oh, right, okay.
And one little Penny moo right there.
Right.
Penny's going to walk here and stand center stage, and then these two strange-looking, I don't know, transvestites, whatever, are going to come in and act.
So, Lisa, this is the last of the 5 assignments. You told me earlier that it actually took the least amount of time, and yet it looks to me like it must have taken hours to put together.
Well, actually, it took me a day to do the whole thing. Like, I'm really learning how to cut corners quite well. Making the whole thing smaller, making the whole thing, because you can't tell how large it is when it's on the monitor. And I've arranged it so that I have to keep track of a lot of things moving, but it isn't very complex. The actions themselves are quite simple.
What are your plans? Come graduation in April, you're all done, you're out of here? Are you going to try to chase a career in animation or filmmaking?
Well, it's going to fit in there somewhere. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do. I'm probably going to go to UVic first and take a few electives towards my Bachelor of Fine Arts, and then probably, definitely I want to go to Emily Carr after that's all finished and take the remaining of art courses there. It's quite a popular school nowadays.
Well, that's great. That's great. Well, Lisa, thanks a lot for taking time out of what I know is an outrageously busy schedule. We've kept you here a whole lot longer than we promised we would. So thanks again, and even though I know you don't need it, good luck with your career, because you're going to do great.
Oh, great. Thanks a lot.
I promised you we'd look at 4 more aspects of the visual arts department. Let's start with Maureen Peacock. She's a second-year student, and she's talking to Christi York about her approach to sculpture.
Maureen, you don't do sculpture as people traditionally think of it. Can you tell me what you're working on now?
What I do could be defined as body art, meaning I use primarily my own body in the work, or in one case I used other people's bodies in the work. So there's an actual living person inside the work.
Oh.
But it is related to sculpture because there is in a form in space, which is, when you think of sculpture, you think of 3D forms in space. And so I do that. I do place a kind of an object in an environment, so it is sort of manipulating space in a sculptural way.
Right.
And but the medium is a living body, so that's what's different. And also, when you think of sculpture, you think of a permanent object, or an object with a sense of permanence. So it's like carved in stone or cast in bronze, historically, or, constructed out of wood or something like that. What I do is I take a person, myself, or somebody else, and I wrap them in a white cotton sheet, and then this sounds rather strange, but I restrain them with white cotton string. And so the effect is very much like a statue. Right. So it is rather sculptural in that sense. But the startling thing about it, and the interesting thing about it, is that on some level or at some point, the viewer becomes aware that what's inside the wrapped form is a living person. The other thing I want to mention about what I do that's different from sculptural objects is that they're generally permanent, and what I do is temporary. So my emphasis is more on experience than making an object that will last.
Maureen, why did you choose to work this way?
We're like saturated with objects in our culture. And I didn't particularly want to make objects. And I said I was more interested in experiences than objects. And I'm also at the point in my life where I'm more interested in what's happening inside me, the internal process. So I'm not so much interested in creating something out there, sort of objectively, more in working out what's going on inside me. So therefore it's kind of logical to include myself right in the work. The effect of looking at the figures is really quite startling in a sense, because I know because I did it, I wrapped them, that there's people inside. But when you look at them, you kind of do this, like a double take in a sense, because the figure is so neutralized,
You have to look again to see
it's like they're stripped of personality, and they become almost, childlike and vulnerable. but you aren't prejudiced by what they look like or what sex they are or what they're wearing, you know, and there's no facial expression. So what you have left actually is their form and their essence. The whole reason for doing this work is for me to have an experience and for me to communicate that experience to other people in some kind of, you know, articulate way. And also to make room for other people to have their own experience in response to the work.
So, what about this next piece that you're going to be doing, the fourth piece? Can you tell me about that?
The piece is called Cradle, and I would say since it's the fourth piece I'm doing that it's the most considered, I spent the most time thinking about it. And it's a really important piece, and actually it's a comforting piece. When I think about doing it, I feel a sense of comfort. I mean, I guess the whole title Cradle, it reminds me of, you know, being in a cradle,
right?
In a sense. Actually, what I think it's going to look like is more of a cocoon. And do you want a physical description?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, well, I've chosen a site, again, on the front lawn, and there's a large oak tree with a branch that hangs down like this. And my intention is to take rope. I think I worked it out that I need 5 pieces to support my body. And what I'm going to do is be wrapped in the sheet again and restrained with the string. And the string actually is not so much restraint anymore as definition. As so you know, the nose will be defined and the features defined and, the form of the body defined. So it's acting less as restraint and more as a sort of a sculptural definition.
Right.
And then with assistance, I will be placed inside the rope cradle. So I'll be suspended off the ground. And so it's reminiscent of cocoon, of cradle, of being held, also of floating or falling or weightlessness. The source of the work comes from my sort of personal process, it's like an emotional healing. So the pieces work as sort of a ritualistic healing kind of thing. And I'm remembering traumatic experiences from my childhood. And these images sort of come from there as expressions of that and a way of working through it. So I like remember being restrained as a child, and it was related to a traumatic experience.
It's like a therapy almost.
It works. It's like working it out. That's what art is for me. It's working it out.
Hi, I'm not an artist, but there are some people here at Camosun that can do some incredible things with a paper and pencil. And right now, while I get back to my drawing, I'd like you to meet Heather and Jennifer.
Hello, my name's Heather. I'm a first-year student in the Visual Arts program.
And I'm Jennifer. I'm also first year in Visual Arts here at Camosun.
We're actually going to show you a few of our drawings that we've done in our first half of the year. But before we do that, we thought we'd talk a little bit about the program.
Yes, it's a wonderful program, very diversified, lots of elements in it. Today we are going to focus, as Heather said, on drawing.
I think one of the things I like about this program, I don't know how you feel, Jennifer, is it seems to have a practical application, and the instructors really do demand of us, and it's a very intensive course. Before we look at the drawings this afternoon, Jennifer and I would like to talk about the instructors who teach 2 classes. Judy Price, drawing and painting class, and Ralph Stambridge, who teaches 2D.
Both of these instructors really encourage us to go further. Once we've done an assignment, we talk to them about the assignment, and they really encourage us to explore some of the possibilities.
2 drawings done in a very traditional way.
Yes.
In the life drawing class. Jennifer, yours is on the right.
Yes, that's in brown Conte. And Heather's is on the left, and that's black Conte.
My drawing is a 360-degree panorama taken from Beacon Hill. It's executed in ink, and I was faced with the problem of sorting out all that detail and how I was going to render it. And I finally decided that a simple line drawing and quite often utilizing negative space.
This is a very interesting technique which most people probably wouldn't think of as drawing. These three here, they're using a Xerox machine. And they're mostly drawings or photographs I had done, and then using a Xerox, I made various distortions of them, reducing, enlarging, moving the pictures as they are being copied. It creates very unusual and very unique effects that can only be done on a Xerox.
I decided to approach it in a different way, in that I was recording my emotional mental state when faced with a project. Starting at the top and reading downwards, my first response to a project is total blank, and then I start to have little glimmerings come forth, as you can see. And then I become aware of the time element, because every project is to a deadline, and I start to get a little anxious and a little wrought up. And by the time I come to the middle section of this piece, I'm really quite tense and quite panicky. And then ensues a process of watching the clock and smoking lots of cigarettes, which I know is a no-no. And until finally I get to some point of resolution where I can break through and resolve the problem that I'm dealing with. And it ends up at the bottom of the place where it began, nice blank screen. We're going to show you two drawings, different mediums, different styles. I'll speak about mine first. This is the blind contour drawing on the left, which was done for a project in Judy's class. Blind contour is regarding the object while the pen moves, and you do not watch what you are drawing.
This is a completely different drawing style. It's done in charcoal, and I was looking at a photograph of my cat in the sunlight, and it's just a realistic rendering of that photograph. The assignment for this one was to create a monumental sculpture and place it within a landscape. And my monumental sculpture was a abstract cubist horse, and I placed it in this rural farmland, and the drawing is just a depiction of that. With this drawing, this was our very first assignment for Judy in drawing class. I went down to the Inner Harbor. I did 3 macro scale and 3 micro scale drawings in different mediums and put them all together. We have a mixture of graphite, pencil, and charcoal in this one. And I was interested in just the texture and the angles and how they fit together.
This was an assignment from Ralph's class, and we actually had to do a self-portrait as we thought somebody else would see us. And the requirement was that we work the surface, which meant we were working with charcoal, contes, chalks, crayons, and really putting down layer upon layer, working it into the paper, working more surface into it, until you think that paper can't absorb one more thing.
For this assignment, one day Ralph brought in a whole bunch of mechanical bits and pieces. We drew them, and the assignment was to create a figure from them on a large scale. I did mine in charcoal, as you can see. It's a giant plug for his head, and lots of odds and sods make the rest of them up. They were exercises, but they showed us some of the possibilities there are in the drawing medium for us, how to express ourselves in ways we hadn't thought of before.
Oh, hi again. Well, I'm just about finished my drawing, and I think it looks pretty darn good. But there's something, I don't know, I can't put my finger on it. There's just something missing. Maybe it just needs some color. I'll see if Nora's segment on painting can give me some ideas.
Nora talked to Mark Laver about one of his paintings and the approach to painting taken in the visual arts program.
Tell me about this painting.
This painting I painted at the end of last year as a final project for drawing and painting in first year. And it was also done partially for a multimedia course which we do performance art in. And I filmed it to use in my final performance. I filmed myself painting it. So I took the canvas up on the roof of the art annex and filmed myself. It took me about 20 minutes to fill the whole canvas. One thing with painting is knowing when to stop, because you can just keep going layers and layers and layers. And I don't think I had decided to stop, but then I had my interview and looked at it and realized that it was finished. And I haven't done anything to it since. And I wrote down a list earlier this year. You could just put just about anything on a canvas. sawdust and coffee grounds and leaves or sticks or whatever you want. You could build up the surface with just about anything. Some people use newspaper clippings and magazine things, and they just glue them on and paint over them, or leave parts showing, or you're really not limited to paint at all. It's called painting, but I mean anything. A lot of this is charcoal. A lot of the drips and stuff is charcoal with just water poured over it or whatever, and let. There's different kinds of paint. There's house paint and acrylic and everything all on here.
From what you said, the Viz Arts program isn't so much technical and isn't taught in the traditional way that art is usually taught. How is it structured?
There's a course called Drawing and Painting, and in the first half, it's concentrated on drawing. The second half of the year, the students buy paint and get into painting, and they do exercises. You don't get too much, you're not self-directed as much right at the start, but they do teach you, they start teaching you what it is you will be painting about just by getting you to look at your own history and yourself and everything. And they concentrate more on what you want to paint and get you experimenting with paint and not necessarily teaching you methods of painting like paint a modern painting or something. In the program there's 5 days, and every day there's a different class for all day. In second year it's a bit more free. For instance, on Monday we have filmmaking and animation. Tuesday we have photography. Wednesday and Thursday I have sculpture. Some people do pottery on those days, or one of each. And on Friday we have seminar.
How has the program affected you?
Before I came into the program, I didn't even realize there was such thing as looking into yourself or learning about yourself. I was just me, and that was kind of it. In the program, they really, between all the teachers, in different ways get you to look inside yourself, to look back at your personal history, dig things out, do art about things that you feel strongly about. And to be an artist and do strong work, that's the only thing you can really do, because you can't do art about what someone else thinks. I really didn't think I would enjoy painting. I came into the course not looking at that at all. And then when we started getting into it, I just started loving it. I want to do bigger stuff and just really get into it.
Do you consider yourself an artist?
Some people who are called artists by other people say that everybody's an artist in some ways, that an idea can be an artistic thing or a thought. So yeah, I consider myself an artist, but I think that everybody is or can be an artist at different times. I think the best work just comes when you really don't worry about what anyone's going to think, and you just do it, and the only person that really matters is yourself. It's really hard sometimes to do that, but that's definitely the strongest stuff, is when a lot of it is even intuition. You might not even know yourself for quite a while what the painting means, and at different times it'll mean different things. Like this is always sitting in my living room, and different times I look at it and feel different ways, and it's still relevant. But just overall, the course has just changed me so much, and I got so much out of it. Now I'm excited to live and excited to do art, and it's like there's so many things I want to do now. I don't even know if I'll be able to fit them into my life, but I mean, maybe it would have happened anyway, this learning about myself, but I think this really accelerated it and put it into one sort of big bang, and it was just great.
To get a hands-on pottery experience, Andy got Dave Tebby to show him a little about the pottery process.
Well, thanks for inviting me over to the pottery annex, Dave.
No problem, Andy. Let's just trade that jacket for an apron and we'll get started.
Okay. There you go.
After putting on a funky apron, I was ready for my first pottery adventure. The first thing Dave showed me was how to wedge clay. Wedging is done to remove any unwanted air pockets in the clay so finished creations fired in the kiln don't explode.
Okay, well, now that we've got the clay wedged, so, you know, it's all ready for throwing.
Right.
The important thing when you're throwing a pot, you know, by far the most important, is to get the clay centered on the wheel.
Right. Centered on the wheel.
So what you want to do is just want to wet your sponge there and just wet the wheel down.
Okay.
Just want to get the wheel moving a little bit. You got a foot pedal on the other side there.
Oh, I see, okay.
Just get a little bit of water on there.
All right.
Don't get it moving too fast.
Okay.
And basically, start off with a bang, and you just want to take this and slam it as close as you can to the center of the wheel.
Slam it right in the center
really
there,
attach
right?
it on there.
Okay. All right.
Okay. And just inlet this.
So I get my hands all wet?
It's not as important just right now.
Okay,
but
so
you just want to hit the clay and just push it really towards the center a little bit.
Okay.
And really drive it into the wheel so it's not going to be coming off. Okay. So you just want to get lots of water on there.
It just seems like this thing's gonna fall right off right now. Is that all right?
Place your elbow in here and really get your whole body behind it.
Okay.
That'll give you the most even pressure.
Let's get in there with the brace.
So and then just the heel of your hand.
It's pretty scary.
It's getting there. It's getting there. Keep it nice and wet.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And the wetter it stays,
the
easier it is on your hands.
So the idea is just to get this.
It's to get this part in the middle here.
Right. Perfectly.
Like that top little bit there.
Right.
Is the part I'm going to use to throw the pot, and that's very symmetrical. It's very centered right now.
So is this how you start off all the clay on this thing?
Anything thrown on the wheel basically has to be centered.
What kind of things can you make on this? So right now, I guess we're making a bowl. Is that what we're going to do?
Make,
or anything?
We'll probably make a little vase is probably the easiest.
Okay.
You can make anything, mugs, plates, bowls.
Great. Keep my hands.
Keep your hands, really, what you want is just as much wet. You don't want to keep too much clay on them.
Okay. So you get rid of the clay.
Just give them a rinse in the water there.
Okay. Right. That's a lot of clay on my hands right now.
I was having a good time trying to create a vase. I kept asking Dave questions whenever I found myself losing control of the pottery wheel. We took a break and Dave showed me some of his excellent pottery work.
When the pots are fired, oftentimes the middle of the bottom will drop down a bit, so the edge needs to be raised to make it sit square.
I envied his workmanship, but hey, my vase wasn't that bad for a rookie. I then asked Dave more questions on the pottery aspect of Viz Arts.
The second year course is there's a lot of self-direction. The first year, when you're introduced to pottery, in first year, there's a lot of instruction on technique, instruction on all the different, a lot of the different aspects. And it just gets to be a lot more hands-on second year. Like we're told about roughly how a kiln works in first year. Second year, the students are responsible for firing all the kilns.
All right.
And so it's a lot more sort of hands-on experience. And we actually, in second year, we make all of our glazes that we use on the pots. And eventually we'll be making some clay to be ready for next year. So we basically go through the whole process, making a clay from within the 2 years of making the clay right up to the finished pot. I'm really doing it basically because I enjoy it. I'm not looking at it as a career. When I go into a career, it'll be photography and film. And like I say, pottery for me is something I really enjoy doing. It's almost like a balancing point.
Thanks for watching Camosun Today. I hope you've enjoyed our program about the Visual Arts Department. Be sure and tune in next week. Group B is going to be presenting a Christmas special. Camosun Today is produced by students in the Applied Communication Program. We appreciate your comments. The number to call is 592-1113.